It's Sunday, and it must be Front Row Center Day, the day where two goons from Wisconsin talk about films. Whoa, we sound a little weird here. Hang on, let me turn a knob. There we go. That's a little better. Hey, I'm Jeff. He's Bert, and he's on a channel called Schlockmeisters.com. Not Schlockmeisters.com. You should reserve Schlockmeisters.com.
Maybe I should.
Getting to that point, I guess. But no, he's on YouTube as Schlockmeisters, and you're the only Schlockmeister on YouTube.
Yep.
That's not
there
exactly
was one
true.
before me, but that was also me.
They asked him to leave. So
They did.
We do movie reviews here every week on CPL Radio. We are the only movie review show at this time, and usually runs about an hour long for you new listeners who are, who are just brand new to us. We're glad you're here, and yeah, I'm a little loud in Bert's ear. That's just
You are.
because, yeah, absolutely. That's an adjustment we'll have to make at the commercial break, I'm afraid. So
You're always screaming at me.
I have been for years. Usually our arguments are legendary. So, and hopefully we'll have some of those legendary arguments here on the air because we've been getting along way too well for a movie review show. Maybe we'll bust each other's...
Why don't you watch The Souvenir? Or we'll just dig out Transylvania 65000 again. Or you know what? Todd Haynes movie, Safe.
Oh, I love Safe.
Yeah, shit.
All right, there we go. I haven't seen Safe in a long time, but when I watched it, I enjoyed it quite a bit. Have you seen any other Todd Haynes movies?
I have the Superstar, Kieran Carpenter movie, and I just saw something in the theater that Todd Haynes directed, and I can't remember what it was. Or did we watch it on the...
You probably watched, that one based off the book called Wonderstruck.
That wasn't it.
Oh.
We literally just watched a Todd Haynes movie this week, and I
Okay.
can't remember which one it was.
Well, there you go. He did a film called Far From Home.
Far From Heaven?
Far From Heaven, excuse me. Yes. That's the one.
Yeah, the one we did this week, I'll probably tell you very shortly because I'm going to give you... Oh, I know what he did, which we didn't see this week. We were going to see it. We were going to see Dark Waters last night, but we saw something else.
What is Dark Waters?
It's a brand new movie. It's in the theater. It's about the guys, the attorneys went after DuPont, I think, for, I don't know, monopoly or something. I don't know exactly what it all is, but it's...
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the three movies we've actually switched our thrust. Sounds kind of dirty, but we've switched our thrust to more streaming material, mostly because of the complexity of getting to the movie theaters frequently. Although I have a feeling we're both going to see a movie next week that we probably could talk about. Not
what's going to happen if you don't see this movie during the week and you see it on Sundays like you've done the past few years? We're going to be sitting here next Sunday. I will have seen it. You will not have.
Nothing better than a little on-air tension. I might grill you and try to get information out of you. I'll pump you for information.
You want me to spoil it for you?
Okay. We should do a show about spoilers because this whole thing is really interesting, and I would love to have a conversation about this. It won't be this show, however. But
by the way, I have not read anything about this new Star Wars movie. I don't know any. I don't know anything about anything.
Trailers?
About anything.
Seen the trailers?
I've seen the trailers, of
Okay.
course, yes, but
Yeah.
nope. I don't want to know.
Interesting.
Just want to go into it blind.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about that at some point in the future because I have people now who are so recoil in horror at the. I won't see any trailers. I don't even want to hear the title. I mean, they get really weird about it. They get to the point where it's just you got to know a little something about a movie. I have a feeling this whole spoiler terror that's encased movie view, is kind of.
Well, let me tell you something.
Weird.
The new Star.
Okay, well, here, before you tell me anything, I'll tell you this. If a movie, and this is my contention, and I would always tell people this, and then they give me the look, and I know the look, and you'll probably give me the look when I tell you about this. And you can't hear the look, but maybe you will be. He gives the look so good, maybe you could hear it over the airwaves. If a movie can be spoiled by someone telling you the ending, then it wasn't a very good movie to begin with. That's bullshit, and I will stand on that to my grave. Okay, so fine. So what's the first? Because they're talking about the ending. The ending usually encompasses about 3.5 minutes of film footage. A reveal or the ending. So what about the other 2 hours that you were there for? Why is that? Why is that no longer valid? Why is it invalidated? Oh, the acting. Someone spoiled the movie for me. Therefore, the acting was bad. The directing was bad, and it was poorly lit.
You have a point there.
This is
but
crap.
I would rather not know. I would rather just be.
I understand.
On.
Oh no, I understand that, but I'm one of those who's not But the extreme that people take the spoiler thing, and I don't know if you've been around that. I've been around it quite a bit, where someone says, "Oh, I saw that movie. It was funny." Hey, spoilers!
No, I don't get that extreme.
There are spoiler extremists out there. They're like jihadists.
These
They're
are the
crazy.
people who love slipcovers on their Blu-rays too.
Yeah, they might be. Yeah, well, you got me there. That's probably true. I mean, but it's really weird. It's kind of taken, and I'm of the opinion that if someone told me tomorrow, hey, and this is not,
Spoiler.
this is not a spoiler.
Don't say it.
I don't know baloney. This is not. If we find out that Rey and Kylo Ren had sex prior to the Force Awakens, and they're both their own child, I don't know how that works. Hey, do the math. But if that's what happened, I'm still probably going to love The Rise of Skywalker because I will love the spectacle of it and X-wing fighters flying and flashing, slashing lightsabers. That's the stuff I'm there for. I'm not there for the big reveal. I don't care about that stuff really. I think it's baloney.
Let me tell you, the new Star Trek movies that came out recently in the last 10 years or so.
Sure.
The second one.
Yeah, I know.
I had absolutely no idea that Benedict Cumberbatch was Khan until I watched the movie, and I figured it out just before the reveal.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa.
That's about midpoint in that movie.
That's cool.
Oh, spoiler.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
So I liked that. And I'm sure had I read stuff online, I would have known immediately. But
Well, and
actually, that movie had been out for like a week or two before I even saw it. So
Right. Well, you had the benefit too of a lot of people came away from that movie like really angry, like they didn't like that movie for whatever reason.
Stupid fanboys.
Not just fanboy, just weird. I don't know. The whole thing is strange. We're in a weird period right now. But speaking of being in a weird period, let's.
You gotta get rid of that angst.
I'm good. I don't know.
Not you.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of angsty movie fans out there.
There are. You're absolutely right. What about taking like the fun and the joy of seeing films? I mean, that's another thing too. It's just like if someone can be spoiled for you by someone saying, "Hey, that movie was kind of thrilling." Yeah, I don't know. I just think you have other issues going on. So, should we talk about this R-rated thing? We'll usually do that, and then after the break, we'll get to our first review. Let's talk about this whole. So, I posed a question online, well over 2 weeks ago now. I thought it was kind of interesting. As a kid, and I think it was more when we were kids than it is now. Now I think that you can see things anywhere now. I mean, if you really want
turn on your TV and stream.
Yeah, if you want to see something naughty, it's not that difficult anymore. But back in the 70s and 80s when we were coming about, an R-rated movie was a
big deal. There might
big
be boobs.
taboo, and it was just everything about it was verboten to and. So you couldn't get in, and there was you had no other recourse. Home video hadn't really. I mean, that was a big savior, of course, was cable television. And
Cable
home video.
television, March of '82 for me.
Open things up wide, but so I posed the question on our Facebook page, Front Row Center Reviews. You can find us on Facebook if you kind of
yes, go find us, please. Start liking
us, and start loving us for that matter. So this is what the MPAA would say on their R restricted banner: under 17 requires accompanying parent or adult guardian. It's pretty restrictive, especially if you're under 17. My friend Lisa, who she goes by the name Lisa Marie Dolans.
I've seen that name.
Yeah.
Is she any relation to Mickey?
It's not, I don't know. I mean, I
saw some comments about the monkeys once.
If she had her way, she would be. She's a big monkey fan. She seems to be very particular to Mickey. I've seen him just
because that's not a common name. So
no. When I will spare, since she's going incognito, I will spare her actual name, and if that's the way she wants to keep it on.
Tell me off air because I gotta know.
Yes, of course, I'll do that. But Lisa Marie says, LOL, I have a good one. The original Child's Play, 1988. I was 9 and my little brother was 6. My parents dropped me and my little brother at good old Budget Cinema on Highway 100. And I think that one's still there.
I don't know.
I think it was one of the last Budget Cinemas.
There.
Oh, it's a dive. It's a dive. And so the parents went to do some grocery shopping after dropping the youngins off at Budget Cinema on Highway 100 here in Milwaukee. And so my little brother and I were supposed to see The Little Mermaid, but I got the idea to sneak into Child's Play. Oh man, he had nightmares for a month, but he never snitched on me. Good boy.
That's awesome.
You don't rat on your friends. As far as I know, my parents never found out until this broadcast or until our Facebook page. Your friend. Her name was Irene.
Oh, that's Leah Hope's mom.
You pronounce it Stephs or Stephus? I can't.
I think it's Stephus.
Okay, Jordan. So she does not remember, to tell the truth, when she was growing up Catholic. My parents went by.
Well, hang on. When she was growing, there was no PG or R's.
That is
she
true.
just turned 80. So
yeah. Well, still, I'll read her comic because it's a nice thing to do. When I was growing up Catholic, my parents went by a group called, I believe, the Catholic Legion of Decency.
Oh, boy.
I bet those are some wild parties. I remember arguing with them about a movie I wanted to see, and it was on their don't see list. It was probably Baby Doll or what's
Promises.
yeah. What was one by Eli Kazan?
Or Russ Meyer movie.
Oh, and there was the one that The Moon is Blue, where they said the word virgin. And I remember they made a joke about it in MASH. They said, well, they did say the word virgin. And Hawkeye says, yeah, because everyone was. So it was kind of tame. But I think I went anyway and then confessed in confession. Were there ever any other ratings? And so I don't think ours started until probably like 70 or 71.
Yeah, I think it was, if not the late 60s, early 70s.
PG used to be known as GP too, which is weird. Back in like the late 60s, they
you're
called
right.
it like guidance parental. I don't know if that was, no, it was like
Because Midnight Cowboy was in 1969, and that was rated X, actually. And that was before X was associated with pornography.
Right.
X.
Just certificate. Yeah, exactly.
Got to be 18.
It's interesting. So, what about you? What? So, with we made a distinction off the air. We'll say initially with your parents. What is the first R-rated movie that you?
It wasn't actually with my parents. I don't think. Well, I had a
you had a cool uncle.
I had a cool mom coworker. My mom's coworker Mary loved horror movies, and somehow she knew I loved them too, even though I hadn't really seen any yet because we didn't have cable yet.
You love the idea of them.
Yes, but in 1981. She took me, or 81, 82, she took me to see The Howling and American Werewolf in London. She also took me to see Ghost Story and Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D.
Okay, so that's a lot. What was the first?
It was either Howling or American Werewolf, whichever one came first in 1981. I'm not sure which one was released first.
I have to go look in the calendar.
Yeah, but I actually got my dad to take me to The Howling a second time because I enjoyed it so much. I convinced him to. So I actually saw The Howling in the theater. I think I was 9, twice.
Did you have nightmares?
No, not at all.
See,
loved them. Loved them.
Yeah, I never had nightmares either. I mean, I don't actually. I'm not prone to nightmares, so I don't.
I mean, I've had nightmares in my life, but never something caused by a movie.
Huh.
The Howling came out in April of 1981, and I'm pretty sure American Werewolf was later on. So,
well, you beat me by about 4 years. Now, that being said,
and you're a year older than me too.
I have to say, I have to be careful here because actually I was okay. Well,
Are you gonna get in trouble from Dad?
Yeah, well, no, Dad'll be fine.
Yeah, American Werewolf came out in
No, I have
August,
to be careful because I'm gonna misspeak because I think that so I believe that in 1982 I saw a movie called Hooper with Burt Reynolds. It was PG. It was rated PG. However,
boobs.
There were boobs.
Well, there was
which
boobs
you
in
could do.
Airplane
Yeah,
also.
Absolutely. So that was my first like theatrical boob.
Hello.
And I was in second grade, and man, were we giggling! Oh
Mine-
my
I
god,
think-
we were very adult about the whole
I think
thing.
mine was Airplane.
So that worked out pretty well.
But full frontal nudity, The Howling. That was my first.
All true. all
Elizabeth
true.
Brooks.
There we go. Beyond that,
Actually, in American Werewolf in London was my first penis.
there we go.
David Naughton running through the woods.
It's all getting good. My first R movie, because I wanted to breach the R thing, and I was 15, and I really still hadn't seen an R-rated
Good
movie.
Lord.
Yeah, I was 15. I mean, it
You
just
had cable by this point.
well, no, that's why I have to be careful here because I believe
Oh,
at 12 and 13,
were stealing
I was
cable.
already seeing. Yeah, I was seeing bits and pieces of stuff I shouldn't be seeing, but I still was like, I haven't seen an R-rated movie in the theater. It just seemed wrong. My parents were going to see a movie called The Killing Fields.
I remember
at
that.
the Strand. Roland Jaffe was the director. Sam Waterston starred. It's about Pol Pot and the Cambodian. Very sad and grueling and harrowing film. I kind of wish I had picked something else.
That was your first movie?
That was my first R-rated movie, and I went along not because I was dying to know about the history of Laos. I was dying to just hey, it's R-rated. I gotta see an R-rated movie in the theater. It's just one of those things. So we went. And I felt horrible, like sick to my stomach, because the whole thing was just like this very sad, grim depiction of government just ruining the lives of people, and friendships lost, and it was so sad. It was horrible. Great, fine filmmaking. I haven't watched it since. I haven't exactly rushed back to see it, but actually, it's funny.
It's got great reviews, as I recall.
It did. It was Oscar bound. I
Yeah.
believe it was up next to like Chariots of Fire and stuff like that. So I mean, it lost, but was a favorite certainly. Now let's talk about R-rated movie on your own. in
Yes,
the
I know.
theater.
I know what mine is because I
I do.
remember.
I do too. I know mine.
I'll give you mine first. It was, I believe, I was a senior in high school, and a bunch of the kids were getting ready to go.
Oh wow, I beat you on this one then.
You probably did. They
Wow,
all
by
wanted
2
to
years.
see The Lost Boys.
Oh sure.
And I was scared because I was either 16 or 17, depending on when it came out.
Sure.
And
well, 17's fine.
oh, that's true. No, then maybe it was my junior. I don't know,
Okay.
but I saw it with my friend Dave Swadek, and
Okay.
sitting behind me was Brad Strofe and
Okay.
Chris Stoutinger.
Oh, it was like a.
It was a packed house of teens. Not my scene, but I remember where I was worried. It's like because I looked very young with my bowl haircut and everything else,
Right.
and I looked like I could be 12.
He still has that bull hair.
Yeah,
It's nice.
What's left of it? But yeah, I got in just like everybody else did. and
All right.
The Lost Boys was it.
So my approach was a little weird. We when we moved to Milwaukee, there was this amazing phenomenon because living in Manitowoc and Two Rivers, we had 3 theaters, 3 screens. That's just how it worked, you know.
Yep.
That was the norm. When we get to Milwaukee, there's these things called multiplexes, and up the road from us in Brown Deer was one called Northtown. It is currently a storage facility. Further up the road was a theater called Mill Road, which at that time in 1986-87, Mill Road was fine. Now the Mill Road area has unfortunately economically downgraded itself. Rather
By the way, I was
sadly.
either 15 or 16, depending on
Okay.
Lost Boys.
So then we're kind of in the same zone here. So I at
fall
that
of
point
87.
at that point I was quite the film snob. Richard Wheeler helped me along in that one, and so I loved David Lynch at that time. We loved everything David Lynch did. We read about him and we obsessed over David Lynch. Well, Blue Velvet was coming out.
Oh yeah.
So it's a Sunday night. I believe my parents. So we're going to the multiplex, and we decided we're going to split off into different theaters. You know, because we all had different tastes, and that was the beauty of the multiplex. Is we all didn't have to go see the same movie anymore, and we did that quite a bit. Well, I thought I'd press my luck this night.
You
and
must have been jazzed.
I was so happy. So I pressed my luck that night, and my parents are going to see Jumpin' Jack Flash with Whoopi Goldberg. And they said 4 for Jumping Jack Flash. I said, oh, actually, you know what? Blue Velvet's about the same time. Can I do that one instead? And my dad's like, oh, yeah, sure. And they went for Blue Velvet. Again, they knew nothing about the movie. So there's little 16-year-old Jeff Messerman in the theater. And, you know, as a Lynch fan, I had only seen like Eraserhead, which is, you know, surreal and weird and gross and everything, but fine. Dune, I'd seen that. And The Elephant Man. And, you know, yeah, it was fine. Well, Blue Velvet blew my mind clear across the room.
Good Lord, you can still quote that to this day.
A highly quotable and absolutely horrifying film, a depiction of small town seediness run amok that, of course, he bent into Twin Peaks later. So, Blue Velvet, and not too long after, I think the week after that, we went to the movies again, and I got to see Cronenberg's The Fly. So it was quite a double win.
I actually saw The Fly in the movie theater with my dad.
There we
He
go.
took me to that one.
There we go. I went alone. I went again, but I didn't really go alone. My dad paid the ticket, but I splintered off to my own theater to see. So that was the beauty of the multiplexes, right?
You know, my dad also took me to Platoon and also Return to Horror High. Remember that one?
I do.
Maureen McCormick and
yeah.
Philip McKeon.
We were gonna go see Platoon, my dad and I, but we had just gone to the Old Country Buffet, and we thought watching that with a belly full of like buffet food wouldn't be a good idea. So we went to see Ishtar instead.
Oh,
So there you go, and the rest is history. Anyway, this poll is not closed. If you have any ideas of R-rated movies that you saw when you shouldn't have been watching, because that's the best way. That's the other thing great about R-rated films too that I think we've kind of lost. And I'm sad about that. Is that
it was taboo. We
it's
shouldn't
no
be
fun.
doing it.
It's no fun when you have permission.
It's just like drinking. You know, kids, no matter what they tell you, half the fun about drinking is that you're not supposed to be doing it.
Exactly. And maybe someone out there is not supposed to be listening to podcasts right now, but they are anyway. So we're going to come back and review our 2 movies of the week and talk a little bit about Cinema Smackdown. We love that. So it's Let's Do It versus Good Morning here on Front Row Center. We'll be right back. That's right. We're back to Front Row Center on CPL Radio, show about movies, show where we talk about movies, a show where we talk about R-rated movies.
But before you get started,
Oh, okay.
on the report,
He has the
quickly, very quickly, in the last 7 days since we've been here, what, if anything, besides our homework, have you watched?
We need that report. I have had a horrible week. I had way too much life to live. So what we're reviewing this week is what I watched. Outside of, actually, I watched some cartoons. I watched some Thundercats and I watched some Transformers this week. Otherwise,
All right.
nil.
Well, it was actually a very busy week for me in terms of life too. However, I still managed to squeeze in 16 movies.
Shocking.
So here we go. Quickly, I Lost My Body cartoon.
I will be hitting that next week, I hope.
All right. Hallmark movie called Catch a Christmas Star.
We will not be hitting that next week, I hope.
I reviewed The Witch's Mountain on my channel, horror movie from the 70s. Hallmark movie called A Merry Christmas Match. Went to the theater Tuesday night and watched a movie called Waves.
Oh, was that good? Look
It
interesting.
was very good, actually. Very good. And then earlier in that day, I watched something called Attack of the Killer Donuts, which you'll be seeing on my channel soon.
Oh, yeah. I remember seeing the poster for that. That looked interesting.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Then I watched on Wednesday Visiting Hours, a Blu-ray horror movie from the 80s.
Sleazy,
William
sleazy
Shatner.
movie. Very sleazy.
Yep. And then on Thursday, I watched old cable movie called Touched by Love, which is on my channel now. Reviewed
course.
it. And then something called The Mismatched Secret.
Easy for you to say. What,
The Mistletoe Secret. I'm sorry.
Oh. This is what happens, folks.
Hallmark.
Oh, boy.
Then on Friday, I watched an old cable movie called A Tiger's Tale, which I reviewed as well. I watched Schoolgirl Report 5, which is not on my
Just
channel yet, but it's almost there.
Very naughty stuff.
Yep. And then Saturday was a big day. Yesterday, I watched Good Morning, which we'll be talking about soon.
Indeed.
Watched The Report, which we'll be talking about very, very soon.
Very soon.
Went to the theater and watched A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
Oh, I'm dying to see that.
Yes, very good also. And then I watched a DVD called The Yankles, which is about a guy, a washed-up baseball player who has to lead a group of Jewish baseball
Oy vey.
players called the Yankles.
Wow. Nice.
And then went to the theater late last night and watched Jojo Rabbit.
Oh, that looked interesting.
Very interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
So 16 movies.
Some people love that movie. I mean, they're talking about Oscar stuff for that thing.
They have.
People
There's a little bit of an
really-
Oscar buzz on
People
that,
really
yeah.
dig that thing.
Sam
so.
Rockwell's in it too, and I love Sam
Well,
Rockwell.
he's phenomenal, of course. So, anyway, we're going to talk about The Report coming up. It's a movie you can only watch at this juncture, although I think it actually did have a brief little
It
theatrical
did. It
thing.
definitely did.
But now it's sitting comfortably on Amazon Prime for you to watch in your own home. And I joked before we started rolling, but it's Adam Driver week here because both of our big
Sure
films
is.
are Adam Driver. That's a busy, busy man. Anyway, let's listen to a bit of the trailer for The Report.
Morning, Dan.
Morning, Senator.
Have you seen the story today in the New York Times?
Evidently, the CIA destroyed tapes of interrogations of Al Qaeda detainees.
I want to find out what was on the tapes and why they were destroyed.
No paper.
Paper is a way of getting people in trouble at our place.
At our place, paper's how we keep track of laws. Last night I found this. He's detainee number 24. Have you guys used this thing before?
No, we watched your video.
They waterboarded him 183 times. Everything they got from him was either a lie or something they already had.
If it works, why do you need to do it 183 times?
Some very good questions there from Senator Dianne Feinstein, as played by
Annette Bening.
the great Annette Bening, who's wonderful in this movie. So, The Report is one of those movies, like All the President's Men.
True story, by the way.
True story, absolutely. And so, the interesting thing about The Report is that I think every American should see this movie if you don't know the story. As entertainment, I would call it questionable because it's mostly just a lot of shuffling of papers and computer screens. And not really, I think they're trying to ratchet the suspense up a little bit in this film. And just because you know that you're dealing with pencil pushers and paper shufflers and, the political machine in Hollywood, it doesn't always make for like terrific drama. Obviously, what they're talking about is extremely, sensitive and important. And I guess, for me, the midsection of this film bogged down a little bit, but at the same time, the story within is so important. And there are great lines of dialogue where they bring up, characters bring out, and unfortunately it becomes like the screenwriter proselytizing a little bit, I think, and saying that, putting their agenda out a little bit. And it's a good agenda to have. Obviously, the torturing of human beings is not something that we need to get behind in this country, although there are still people to this day who will say that it's justified. But unfortunately, here's the problem, and the film points this out pretty well.
Torture doesn't work.
It just doesn't
never
work.
worked.
It just doesn't.
It's never, ever worked. In fact, our own country admitted it in the 70s
Right.
that torture doesn't work, and yet they did it again.
And they admitted it again because everyone basically came out and said, here's the thing that comes out of this. No one actually mentioned this, but I have a feeling that the two sleazy contractors who they hire for this gig, who have all these ideas and all, it was apparently like these were Air Force techniques.
this
that
guy
they were
must be some
selling.
sort of Superman. I can't get to him.
Oh my gosh. I mean, the thing of it is that the entire torture program, they call it extended interrogation techniques or whatever. Yeah, there's a little pretty way of saying we're torture someone, is about retribution. People were pissed off about 9/11, and so we were going to just round up whoever we could get and show them who's boss. And I have a feeling there's a lot of that what was behind this because, they're not getting any quality information out of anybody. They're getting nothing.
And you know what? If you have a terrorist and you've captured him, and the minute he's captured, whatever plans he may have known about, they're going to change those plans because if this guy reveals them, that's going to screw up our plans. So you can't get anything out of anybody.
So it really is a blight on our history, and it certainly is not what America's about. And and one would think that would cross party lines, but it doesn't always because they do get a little bit into.
Well, this movie attacked Obama too. It wasn't just it was just an attack on Bush and
You're
Cheney.
absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I think that was a really very measured, way of going about it. John McCain is represented a little bit in this film, just mostly by footage, not by someone playing him. But obviously, he had very stark opinions about torture, having
for
been
a good reason.
tortured himself, and it's not a film I'll ever go back and revisit. I don't.
I won't either, but I actually enjoyed it quite a bit.
I enjoyed watching it, and I certainly would give it a very hearty 3 stars.
I was giving it 3 as well.
And I'm glad that it exists because I think we do need a document because I will say a lot of the quirks of this case, all the ups and downs, I certainly didn't know who Dan Jones was. Who,
I kind of remember the name, but
in passing, if that. And this guy, again, these are these $100,000 a year pencil pushers and paper shufflers who are, the core and the heart of our American government. These are heroes. These people are heroes because they're doing the dirtiest work possible. They're doing a horrible, just putting in millions of hours and putting
think what they're subjected to seeing and witnessing and viewing and. It's got to be draining. Like the one woman in the movie quit.
She's done. Yeah, she was like, at Thanksgiving. Yeah, she said at Thanksgiving I quit, and Adam Driver says, "Oh, so we got a few more months." She's like, "No, that's next week." So they're sequestered in these grim buildings.
Yeah, in the basement, the bowels of some building with no windows and
I mean, it's what a life.
Sterile environment.
And they do it because they believe in this country and they believe in democracy and So I mean, yeah, if you want to see a really good story about heroes, I think that you could do a lot worse than The Report. So what more do you have to add about this?
I think you pretty much said it all. I mean, we know from history that torture doesn't work, and in spite of it, it's an embarrassment, really. I mean, I just remember shaking my head saying, "Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ!" With all this, I don't think our president at the time, President Bush, he may not have been totally aware of this because I don't think he was pulling all the strings.
Yeah,
I think people were pulling his strings, and I think they deliberately kept some of the information from him so he wouldn't know and couldn't be found guilty of anything.
Yep, it's interesting because
and just remember again, we got nothing. We got no information. Nothing was provided that led it to anything. It didn't save any American lives. It didn't get Osama bin Laden.
Nope.
Nothing.
119 documented cases of torture. Just keep that in mind. 119 people who were...
And one death.
And one death, that's right, who were sleep deprived and they threw them in a box with bugs. Did you see that? Remember that PowerPoint presentation they have for
Jeez, I was like, insects.
It's just horrible. It's just horrible. So, yeah, I'm really glad this movie exists. It's a great document to have of that time period when, post 9/11, we were just chasing our tails and we really didn't know, everything about that just sent everything that we take for granted into a tailspin. And Adam Driver is, of course, predictably great. And
Adam Driver's fantastic. I've always said Sean Penn is the best American actor in the world right now, but I've thought that for years, actually, but Adam Driver is right up there now.
He's kind of becoming our new
He is,
Brando.
in the last 5, 6, 7 years, he has just exploded.
Yeah, he's and
Black Klansman, Logan Lucky.
Right.
These are great films.
I love Logan Lucky.
Great
It's
film.
such a great movie. Anyway, all right, that's the report on Amazon. Check it out. It's streaming right now. All you got to do is, if you have an Amazon Prime account, you just click and you watch. And I think you should. 3 stars from both of us. We'll be back after this with a review of, go figure, another Adam Driver movie. Maybe he should take a vacation into 2020. Well, if you're listening, Adam,
Don't.
clock out. No.
What I love about Nicole, she is a mother who plays, really plays.
What I love about Charlie, he loves being a dad. He loves all the things you're supposed to hate, like waking up at night.
She knows when to push me and when to leave me alone.
He never lets other people keep him from what he wants to do.
Dad, you're too far.
I know. It's not easy for her to close a cabinet.
He's incredibly neat.
She's brave.
He's brilliant.
She's
He's very
very
competitive.
That's Adam Driver. Who? Oh, that guy from that other movie we reviewed before. And Scarlett Johansson in a Netflix film, although this also had a bit of a theatrical run, called Marriage Story, from a guy named Noah Baumbach, who I have a love-hate relationship with. Some of his movies I love, and some of them I've hated. There's a film we were talking about last show with Ben Stiller he did called Greenberg with... what's his name?
Was that with Greta Gerwig by any chance?
Greta Gerwig was in
I saw
one.
that movie.
Yeah. I liked it, but I love it, and I always felt that Noah Baumbach is kind of a sociopath, like just way too misanthropic. He doesn't really have a very sunny outlook on the human race, even though he's accurate. I can't go that dark, and he's gone very dark in a lot of his movies, so that's a struggle for me. But
by the way, this movie has a 94 Metascore, which I think is the highest Metascore that we've done on anything so far.
I don't doubt that, because
It's very rare for anything to get 90, and
so I guess I'm just going to jump right into a review of this thing. Kind of a Kramer versus Kramer for our modern times here in 2019. And it's about well, you know what we didn't do? We didn't have anyone. You didn't. I forgot to turn the mic over to you.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we did do it for the report. Let's do it for this one. Give the people a little breakdown of what this movie's about.
all right, well, we have 2 people here. We have Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson. They are a happily married couple, at least we think they are. She was a former actress out in Hollywood, but she came to New York to be with her man, who runs a theater company there, and she does like off-Broadway plays and stuff like that. So they have a young child.
She does his plays,
Yes.
which is really quirky too.
Yes, she does his plays, and they make a living. They're doing well, or well enough. And then she decides that she's done with the marriage. For a variety of reasons we find out later on, but it's just not working out, so she wants to file for divorce. She goes back to Hollywood. She tries to revive her career there successfully, and he's a little reluctant. He does not want a divorce, but eventually he succumbs to the fact that, yes, it's happening. And we have some attorneys involved here. She has an attorney played by Laura Dern. He doesn't have one at first, but he looks into it. Ray Liotta was one of the people he looked into. And we just basically see the process of divorce with attorneys and the filing of papers and this and that, and I want this and I want that, and it's cutthroat. And that's pretty much our film. The trials and tribulations of a divorce trial.
So we're going to review this film in a 2-tier sort of way. First, we're going to talk about the film, and then we're going to talk about what the film's about. Okay? So we're going to set some ground rules here, so which is a very attorney type of thing to do. This film is, for me, pretty much unassailable when it comes to filmmaking. This is easily my favorite Noah Baumbach movie. This, man, of what we've done, like I'll just consider the year being what we've done on this show so far. If not for Knives Out, this probably would be my favorite movie of the year so far.
Wait a minute. What about Rattlesnake?
That was lovely too.
Okay.
But not my favorite of the year. So, yeah, this movie just sucks you in such a way that you're immediately invested in these people, for me. And let's talk about acting.
Adam Driver, again, he's going to get nominated, I think, for an Academy Award for this one.
This is the one. I mean, he could certainly easily be nominated for both, but I'll tell you, I think he would get a win. I can't imagine. He is just unbelievable in this movie. Absolutely gives a performance that's
Very realistic.
very realistic,
Very, very realistic.
And then I must talk about Scarlett Johansson, who's always kind of flown sort of under my radar. I mean, I always thought, okay, she's fine. Yeah, she does a good job. She's serviceable for the film. I thought she was unbelievable in this one. I was just completely off the charts. This is like an acting class right here. I mean, and when she goes off her incredible monologue, it was like a theater piece where she just goes off in Laura Dern's office, and it was just. Yeah, I could listen to these characters. This is one of the few movies where I'm, at 2.5 hours for me, it almost clocked in at too short. I was like, I need more of these people. I find these people fascinating. Alan Alda was a blast. He was just a great, wonderful, warm character that he brought that very kind of Yoda type sensibility to a attorney who hopefully is,
Let's also talk about Ray Liotta, because Ray
great.
Liotta is an attorney, and he realizes he needs an attorney, so he goes to see Ray Liotta, and he gets very intimidated by Ray Liotta, because
I was intimidated by Ray Liotta.
he's like, well, you got to do this, you got to do this, she's going to do this, let's get work on this, and he's got a partner in there, and he's just bouncing things off. We got to do this, and he's like frustrated. He's like, I'm out of here. This is too much.
Yeah,
but then later on in the movie, Ray Liotta shows up.
Yes.
He has hired him.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a quote here, and I used to have this. Out of the two of us, I'm the only one in the room who actually has gone through a divorce.
Oh, we're going there already?
We're gonna go there right
well,
now.
Hang on. Let me throw out some
All right,
stars.
go ahead.
So, I'm 3.5 on this one.
I am too, 3.5.
Not
Something I want to watch again, honestly, but
I would, just for the performances, to be able to watch these performances
Someday maybe,
again.
but
I find
yeah.
these performances just blindingly beautiful and wonderful. And I mean, so now we're going to talk about the other thing, the other elephant in the room, and that is that this film, I am so glad I watched it alone. I did not want to watch this with my spouse because she can watch it. I'm not going to forbid her, because that, of course, means we have a dysfunctional marriage. But I would have squirmed a little more, because it brings up things that's just natural in human male, female, female relationships. I mean, it's we are imperfect, and those imperfections become much more stark once you've lived with the same person for X amount of years, and you struggle to try to avoid these sort of things, but unfortunately these things just happen. Like, I didn't feel that anyone was to blame for anything here.
But things can escalate real quick.
Once you get attorneys in the room, they sure can.
Oh God!
Now let's talk about
let's
talk about you. Well, just tell the big one.
Again, first of all, I am now happily married a second time now,
Yeah.
and
You've been through it.
I have. So was my current wife. Has actually been through it well. Now,
Yeah.
I can tell you that my divorce was a little bit messy. It didn't start that way. I'm going to just give you this quote here. I was actually, when I was going through divorce, I was actually reading Craig Ferguson's book at the time. Just happened to be reading it. And then he talks about his divorce at one point.
Which you can get here at the Cedarburg Library.
It's a great book, by the way. Funny man. But he talked about at one point his I think it was his second divorce he was going through. And I'm going to read you this quote. It's in two parts here. And I actually had this on my Facebook wall somewhere. And I couldn't find it yesterday, but I went online to find it. But this is the quote, the full quote. And I'm going to cuss. Just be prepared for that.
Bring it on.
The whole quote is this: divorce lawyers stoke anger and fear in their clients, knowing that as long as the conflicts remain unresolved, the revenue stream will keep flowing. I like to believe that there is an extra warm corner of hell for these fuckers who traffic in emotional misery. That was on my wall.
That sounds
for good
about
reason.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. What do you do about that? I mean, the business, the interesting part about a lot of that was I didn't know the kind of zeros and dollar signs you were talking about.
Oh my God! And that's Hollywood. It's not that bad
the
around
West Coast,
here,
but I mean, just
it's still bad.
Like a retainer thing. Like it's okay. So there's a $10,000 retainer.
30,000.
Was it one of them? I think that was Liotta.
Yeah.
And then it was like $450 an hour.
Insanity.
I mean, and this. What's interesting is that they had a child. There's a child involved here. And their process of divorce, and I'm sure this is the reality of the situation, unfortunately, would unduly affect the child's future. I mean, we're talking about that's a college fund that's getting eaten up. That's a...
and they mentioned that.
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, the resolution of this movie, we should talk about a little bit. Without spoiling, I guess. I don't know. Let's just say there was a gesture by the Scarlett Johansson character at the end, which I thought was like, okay, this was very un-Noah Baumbach-like, because a lot of his films end without glimmers of hope. And I feel like this one ended at least with a glimmer of hope that, there would be some sort of normalization. It's just a simple gesture, and I think you might know what I'm talking about.
Go ahead.
She ties a shoelace.
Yeah.
Okay. And I just thought, wow, after all of that, she still cares enough about him to say, I don't want you to trip on your damn shoelace. And I just thought, okay, there's hope. Because,
There is hope there. I'm not sure how realistic that is when divorces get super messy, though. I mean, I don't know how messy this one got, but it certainly had the potential with him going back and forth and screaming, oh, you're an alcoholic, you're this and that. And I don't think either one of those parties intended for that to happen. But when you get attorneys involved and they start sniping at each other, good Lord. I should tell you this. I didn't have an attorney at first, and then I got one, then I got rid of him, then I got a different one. The attorney I ended up with told me, and he was a very experienced attorney, he told me that her attorney told him that this was the messiest divorce I've ever dealt with. This is the worst divorce. And my attorney said, mine's the second. This is the second worst I've had to deal with. So mine was right up there.
Wow.
The worst and the second worst, depending on which one you're talking about.
You know what's interesting is that I think I knew who they considered to be the first worst. And that's as far as I'll take that. But anyway, that's a Marriage Story. I mean, it's pretty much on, I would say, if you have a must-see list, it belongs on that list. So check it out. Noah Baumbach, Adam Driver again, Scarlett. We'll be back with Cinema Throwdown. Little lighter fare, hopefully, after this. You're back with Front Row Center. Here's Cinema Throwdown, the part of the show where we stand facing each other like a Mexican standoff, like a fistful of dollars, and in our holsters, our DVDs or Blu-rays, perhaps.
I have a DVD for you this week.
And we challenge each other. I have a DVD for you, too. I have a DVD-R for you this week.
Oh, I gave you a DVD-R last week.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. So revenge. Because this is a game, folks. We're not sure if we're one-upping each other. We're not sure if we're trying to make the other suffer. We're not sure if nobody knows. It's like this unspoken thing going on, and maybe you, the listener, can pull some subtext out of it. So anyway, I'll go first because mine I think it probably is pretty easy to talk about.
It's 1982's classic. Let's do it.
Let's do it from Bert I. Gordon. So we got a guy. So
did you enjoy it?
I did enjoy it.
I did too.
I mean, I full disclosure, I think the last 10 minutes I fell asleep for because I was starting it very late last night, but I had a pretty good grasp of where this thing was going. And I have to say that for one thing, I've seen a lot of teen sex comedies and a lot of sex comedies and a lot of ribald entertainment. And I can tell you that this is the first one where every scene in the movie is about one thing and one thing only. Like even Porky's, they were talking about other things, or Police Academy, they're doing whatever. No, Let's Do It. Every scene is about virginity, losing one's virginity, potential sexual problems in the lead character, which is just surreal. So Freddie's this guy, and he's pretty hunky. I mean, he's like, for the 80s, he's kind of, he's beefed up. And
he didn't do a whole lot back. He was on an episode of Facts of Life.
Okay.
And, I think he did like 6 or 7 things, and that's it.
There we go. But he's this guy who unfortunately was breastfed.
Oh, by the way, he was the star of Skate Town USA.
Oh, there you go. Oh, nice. So I actually remember that. But so he was breastfed way too late into his adolescence, like to the point where he was. His mom said, "Oh, but he'll be such a considerate."
I've got homework to do, Mom.
Yeah, exactly. So, because of that, I don't know if scientifically has any basis in that. He's very, shall we say, he's got some issues when kind of dealing with his girlfriend, to the point where she keeps on becoming, in his mind, she sort of becomes his mother. He tries to kind of cure himself with a hooker, and so
as you do,
a $35 hooker, by the way, not terribly expensive.
Good gig back in the 80s, man.
I tell you, so
$35. Now you pay that much for DVDs sometimes.
Right. Whatever it takes to cure us. And so, he that doesn't work because the hooker becomes like his girlfriend in his mind, and he just can't quite get over it. And his girlfriend does way too much jazzercise. And frankly, that's kind of the whole movie. I mean, there's not much else that happens per se. It's just scene after scene of like, there's one bizarre scene in the
Is
park.
it that dream sequence?
Where in the park where everyone just starts jumping.
Completely nude women just jumping.
Just jumping. It's like they're on trampolines, but they're not. They're in a park, and they're just they're getting some serious airtime. Whilst
Literally,
naked.
they're
I
just
mean,
there.
yeah, they're just doing. I mean, it's the crap. So
That was like the only until I saw this movie this past year. That's the only scene I remembered from when I saw it
it's
25
very
years
memorable.
ago.
It was directed by the guy who made all those giant bug movies in the 70s, like the Village of the Food of the Gods and
Empire of the Ants.
Empire of the Ants, and all that stuff. They used to call him Mr. Big, Burt I. Gordon. So. I can't say that I'm disappointed I watched this, and in fact, I'd probably get a copy of this myself one day. So there we are. A successful version side of Let's Do It. I will say last night that my kids. So I have a television in our bedroom, and it's around. Everyone was turning in for
They
the night.
wander in during that park scene.
They did not wander in, but they heard a lot of oohing and eyeing, a lot of grunting going on. And they this morning, let's just say the breakfast conversation was really interesting. So thanks to Burt I. Gordon and Burt G. Wardell for Let's Do It. So you watched a little Japanese fair.
I did. I watched a 1959 Blu-ray, a little higher quality film, I guess, than Let's Do It.
Maybe,
but, no less or worse entertaining either. But it's about two kids in Japan in 1959, and they want a television.
Very badly.
They don't have a TV, but one of their neighbors does. So they go over and watch sumo wrestling, and the parents don't want to get them a TV, and they decide, well, if you don't give us a TV, we're just going to go on a talk strike. We're not going to talk anymore.
Vow of silence.
A vow of silence. Yeah, so they just be quiet and don't say a word.
But they still do communicate.
They communicate, but yeah, they do with the little I don't know what you call this. Giving the okay sign.
The okay sign.
But
There's other noises they make though.
yeah, the farting.
A lot
one of the
of
kids,
farting.
one of the kids farts, and the older brother says farting's okay.
Yeah. Yep.
You know who these two kids reminded me of a lot was Wally and the Beaver.
Yeah. In some ways, sure. Yeah.
Same
absolutely.
time period, different country, obviously, but yeah. And there was some another subplot here where the women in the neighborhood are belong to some sort of women's club,
Yes.
and the dues were paid, but they were dropped off and they weren't paid, and then there was some confusion there, and then these kids aren't talking, but the neighbor kids or the neighbor woman doesn't know that the kids aren't talking. So when she says hi to them and they snub her, she thinks, well, Mama's mad at me because she thinks. So there's a whole grudge thing going on, and ultimately at the end of this movie they do get a TV, although we don't actually see them watching it.
Watching it. No, we don't.
No, we don't.
absolutely.
Don't see it out of the box. But
I love the fart noises they use because they're so cartoonish. They're just like, wee. It's just ridiculous. But I don't know. Nobody knows that movie. And I just thought, man, good morning, or Ohio, I guess, as the Japanese would be. I just thought more people should know about this movie. It's fun.
I enjoyed it. And, you know,
Yeah.
it was it's a color film from 1959. The color actually, when I turned it on, it reminded me of like a live action Disney movie from that time period. It just kind of had that look and feel to
Very
it.
Technicolor, yes. Disney would never have touched a movie like this with a 10-foot pole. But I would say a successful round of nobody gets points. I don't know if we have a point system here. So nobody gets points. Let's do it. And good morning. Good morning you can get at the Cedarburg Public Library on Blu-ray if you're in the system.
It's got to be streaming somewhere too, wouldn't you think?
Probably out there. It's a Criterion release, so
Right.
Criterion has their own stream thing going on. Let's do it. You will not find anywhere.
Nope.
You could probably watch your review though.
Come on over. Yes, I did review it back in February. Let's do it.
I have to go back. I
1982.
don't remember. That was one thing I wanted to do before the show, and I didn't get around to is watching your review. So I need to revisit your review. So anyway, here we go with the next round of Cinema Smackdown. We're going to do it on the countdown
Now,
as we are
is
known
this
to do.
something from your personal collection?
This is from my personal collection.
As this is mine.
You're going to love this one. In 3, 2, 1. Aha. Oh. Weird.
I have heard of this movie.
Have
I
you?
don't know what it is. Lolly Madonna XXX. I have
Yes.
no idea what it is, but I know I've heard of it.
Yes.
What am I dealing with here?
You're dealing with a very, very swampy, not really swampy, more like in the Appalachians. You're dealing with a moonshiner movie.
Oh, kind of like Moonrunners or
Not nearly as
Gator Bait.
not nearly as riveting. I
Jeff
guarantee
Bridges,
you.
Rod Steiger.
Yeah, Rod Steiger, completely unhinged.
Is Scott Wilson from Walking Dead.
There you go. Actually written by a woman named Sue Grafton, who died last year, and
Yeah, she wrote a lot of books, didn't she?
She wrote the A through Z murders, like the A is for alibi, B is for burglar. So that was her first gig, kind of doing that. She did the book that's based on, and then from there she started doing
The
that.
Lolly Madonna War.
Yes, I enjoyed it when I watched it. I actually ripped that one from TCM, so that's a Turner Classic Movies rip, and so give it a look, and
All right,
we'll see
I
how
will
that
watch.
goes.
I have heard of it.
I have something here I have never heard of called Breakpoint. It takes balls to get back in the game. Looks like a tennis comedy of some sort.
It is.
I've seen Match Point with Scarlett Johansson, a Woody Allen movie, but I've not seen Breakpoint.
Well, I can tell you that Breakpoint, it's from 2014. It stars Jeremy Sisto. And if you ever watched the TV show 6 Feet Under,
Okay.
he was the brother of the main character's name I can't remember at the time at the moment. But he's the star of this movie. And I don't know if anybody else.
J.K. Simmons is in here. The
J.K. Simmons, yes. Academy Award winner J.K. Simmons.
And the Farmer's Insurance Man.
But this movie, this is one of those movies that...
It was actually written by Jeremy Sisto. He was one of the writers on it. Story by.
Yeah, Dollar Tree or sometimes has movies for $1.
I should
In
go
fact,
there.
We picked up 13 of them yesterday.
Which one did you go to in Grafton?
The one in Port Washington.
Okay.
Oh wait, no. I went to the one in Port Washington earlier, and I got 3. Then we went to the one in Sheboygan and picked up 13 yesterday.
Grafton one never gets DVDs. I'm so depressed because I hear they have them and
Well,
ours never does.
Check it out. They might be hidden somewhere else because
Okay.
in both stores they were hidden somewhere else. I got some great ones yesterday. That
Man.
Ozploitation documentary.
Oh, nice.
Not
Yeah,
not quite for Hollywood.
yeah.
There's also a documentary for Canon Films.
Yes, I've been dying to see that.
Got them both for $1 yesterday.
Jeez, on Blu-ray? Or
Those were DVDs, but we
okay.
did pick up a couple of Blu-rays too.
Nice,
But
nice.
we picked up this one maybe 6 months ago, and I had no idea what it was, but it had a decent rating. So
Okay.
we watched it. We were thoroughly enjoyed this
Really?
movie. Yeah. So
All
I
right.
figured you hadn't seen this one.
Yeah, I
and
guarantee you that is true.
we found it pretty entertaining. So probably
All
one of those
right.
movies that's probably better than it should be.
Well, yeah, Lord knows Let's Do It was better than it should be.
Yes, it was. I'm glad we have that shared memory now.
I did enjoy it. I'd watch. I would. What's shocking is I'd watch it again.
I would too, and I will.
Oh my! Here we go. All right, folks. Cinema Throwdown, week number 2. It's going to be Breakpoint versus Lolly Madonna XXX. The XXX is not the rating. I was afraid you'd think I was giving you some triple X movie. I promise you, it's not.
well, I
The
might be
X-
giving you something like that at some
Oh,
point in the
lovely!
future.
Oh, great! I can't wait.
You ever seen the movie Black Love? It's Herschel Gordon Lewis actually.
I'm not, I don't doubt it. That's our theme, folks.
But oh boy.
I love the fact that we ended on that. So that's perfect. Anyway, back next week with a review of an animated film called.
I Lost My Body.
We'll be doing that one, plus one other one, plus Cinema Smackdown and other stuff. People talk about spoilers. Ooh,
Star Wars is coming.
And we might even talk about Star Wars. You never know. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. I'm losing my English language, so it's time to go. Bye.